I, Alpha Kael of the Silver Moon Pack, accept the Moon Goddess's gift, only to return it. The voice boomed through the great hall, silencing the hundreds of wolves gathered there. I stood in the center of the circle, shivering in my ragged gray dress. My heart, which had been beating with hope just seconds ago, shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. I looked up at him, Kael, my mate. He stood on the dais, tall, broad-shouldered, with hair like spun gold and eyes like cold steel. He looked at me not with love, but with absolute disgust. "You are a runt, Elara," Kael sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "You have no wolf. You have no strength. You are a stain on this pack's lineage. To accept you as my Luna would be to weaken my pack." He stepped closer, the bond between us screaming in agony as he prepared to sever it. "I, Alpha Kael, reject you, Elara, as my mate." The pain hit me like a physical blow. I collapsed to my knees, clutching my chest, gasping for air. The pack, the people I had grown up with, my tormentors, my family, laughed. Kael didn't offer a hand to help me up. He turned his back. "Get her out of my sight," he ordered the guards. "Exile her. If she is found on my lands by sunrise, kill her. They call me the Ghost of Silver Moon. Not because I have special powers, but because I am supposed to be invisible. My mother died giving birth to me. My father, a ranked warrior, died of grief a year later, without parents to protect me, and without a wolf spirit manifesting by the age of 10. I became the pack's punching bag. Scrub harder, Omega." A bucket of dirty water splashed over my head. I sputtered, wiping the grime from my eyes. Jessica, the beta's daughter, stood over me, smirking. She was beautiful, blonde, and cruel. She had been tormenting me since we were pups. "The Alpha ceremony is tonight," Jessica taunted, kicking my bucket over. "Are you excited, Elara? Do you think the Moon Goddess paired you with someone? Maybe a blind old wolf? Or maybe a toad?" "I just want to finish my chores, Jessica," I whispered, keeping my head down. "Look at her," Jessica laughed to her friends. "She thinks she's one of us. You're wolfless, Elara. You're basically a human. You shouldn't even be here." She was right. In our world, strength is everything. An Omega without a wolf is lower than dirt. I cleaned the floors, I cooked the meals, and I slept in the cold cellar. But today was different. Today was my 18th birthday. Today, the mating bond would snap into place. I held onto a secret hope. A foolish, desperate hope. The legends said that fated mates were perfect matches. That once a wolf smelled their mate, all prejudice disappeared. It didn't matter if you were weak. The bond was sacred. If I found my mate tonight, I would be saved. He would protect me. He would take me away from Jessica, from the cold cellar, from the loneliness. I finished scrubbing the floor, my hands raw and bleeding. I stole a piece of stale bread from the kitchen and went to my room, a pile of blankets near the coal chute, to prepare. I had no fine dress. I washed myself in the freezing creek behind the pack house and put on the only clean dress I owned. A gray linen shift that was 2 sizes too big. I looked at my reflection in a puddle. Pale skin, dark messy hair, violet eyes that everyone said were unnatural. "Please," I whispered to the Moon Goddess. "Please let him be kind. He doesn't have to be an alpha. He doesn't have to be rich. Just let him be kind." The great hall was packed. The air was thick with the scent of roasted meat and wine. Alphas from neighboring packs had arrived to witness Kael taking his mate. Kael had become alpha only a month ago, after his father passed. He was the strongest wolf in a generation. Rumor had it his wolf was massive, a killer. Every unmated female in the pack was preening, hoping to be the chosen one. I stood in the back, hidden in the shadows of a pillar. The drums began to beat. The ceremony of the moon began. As the moon rose to its peak, the scent hit me. It was overwhelming. It smelled like a storm in a pine forest. It smelled like power. It smelled like home. My wolf, who had been silent and dormant for 18 years, suddenly stirred in my chest. "Mate," she whispered. "Mate is here." I stepped out from behind the pillar, drawn by an invisible string. At the same moment, Alpha Kael froze on the dais. He dropped his goblet of wine. His head snapped toward me. His steel-gray eyes locked onto mine. The crowd went silent. They saw the Alpha staring at the Omega runt. "No," Kael whispered. I heard it clearly across the room, thanks to my sudden burst of wolf hearing. "Not her." My heart fluttered. He felt it too. I walked forward, my legs moving on their own. The crowd parted, some looking confused, others looking horrified. I reached the foot of the dais. My body was humming with electricity. I wanted to run to him, to bare my neck, to submit. "Alpha?" I breathed, a smile touching my lips for the first time in years. Kael looked down at me. His face wasn't filled with love. It was twisted in a mask of pure fury. His hands were clenched into fists, his knuckles white. "You," he growled. "The moon goddess has a sick sense of humor." "Kael?" I reached a hand out. He slapped it away. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "Do not touch me, runt," he roared. The rejection hurt more than the slap. I stumbled back, holding my hand. "But we are mates. I feel it." "I feel it too," Kael spat, descending the stairs to tower over me. "I feel the bond trying to tie me to the weakest, most pathetic creature in my pack. A wolfless embarrassment." He looked around at the visiting alphas. He saw their judgment. An alpha needed a strong Luna, a Luna who could fight, a Luna who could breed strong heirs. If he accepted me, he would be the laughingstock of the region. His ambition was stronger than the bond. "I will not let you drag me down," Kael said coldly. And then he said the words that ended my life. "The pain of rejection is physical." When he finished the sentence, "I reject you," it felt like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out a vital organ. I screamed, couldn't help it. I fell to the floor, curling into a ball. The bond snapped. The connection to Kael, that warm, beautiful tether, turned into a burning wire that whipped back and lashed my soul. My wolf howled in agony inside my head, then went silent. She went dormant again, perhaps dead from the shock. I lay there, gasping, tears streaming down my face into the stone floor. "Get up," Kael ordered. He didn't look at me. He looked bored now. "You are making a scene." "Why?" I choked out, looking up at him. "Why couldn't you just give me a chance?" "A chance?" Jessica stepped forward from the crowd, laughing. She wrapped her arm around Kael's bicep. Kael didn't push her away. "Look at you, Elara. You're a rat. Kael is a king. Did you really think he would want you?" The pack laughed. It was a cruel, hyena-like sound. "Guards," Kael signaled. "Escort her to the border. If she returns, tear her throat out." 2 large warriors grabbed me by the arms and dragged me backward. I didn't fight. I had nothing left to fight for. They dragged me out of the great hall, out of the warmth, and threw me into the mud of the courtyard. It was raining. "Run, Omega," one of the guards sneered. "Run before we decide to hunt you for sport." I stood up, shivering. I looked back at the pack house one last time. I saw Kael standing in the window, watching me. For a second, he looked regretful, pained. No, it was a trick of the light. He had cast me out. I turned and ran toward the tree line, toward the forbidden forest. No wolf dared to go there. They said it was haunted by rogues and ancient monsters. It was a death sentence, but I was already dead. I ran for hours. Branches tore at my skin. The mud sucked at my boots until I lost them. I ran barefoot over rocks and roots. The pain in my chest dulled to a constant, aching throb. I was cold. I was hungry, and I was alone. Howl. I froze. That wasn't a pack howl. That was a rogue howl, distorted, hungry. Rogues were wolves who had gone mad from isolation. They didn't kill for territory. They killed for fun. I scrambled up a tree, my human limbs clumsy. I hid among the branches, holding my breath. Below me, 3 massive wolves emerged from the shadows. Their fur was patchy, their eyes red with madness. They sniffed the base of the tree. They smelled me. One of them leaped, snapping his jaws inches from my foot. "Come down, little meat!" A voice rasped in my mind. Rogues could project their thoughts. "Come down and play." I climbed higher, but the branch cracked. I fell. I hit the ground hard, rolling to my feet. The rogues circled me, drooling. "Please," I whispered, grabbing a sharp rock. "Just make it quick." The largest rogue lunged. I closed my eyes. Whoosh! The sound of an arrow cutting the air. Thwack! The rogue yelped and fell dead at my feet, a silver arrow protruding from his eye. The other two rogues looked around, confused. Another arrow flew. Another rogue fell. The third rogue turned to run, but a shadow dropped from the trees. A figure clad in black armor landed on the wolf's back. With a fluid motion, a silver blade decapitated the beast. Silence returned to the forest. I stared at my savior. The figure stood up. He was tall, encased in armor that seemed to absorb the light. He removed his helmet. He wasn't a werewolf. He had pale skin, long silver hair, and eyes that were entirely black. No whites, no iris. Just the void. He looked at me. He sniffed the air. "You smell of Alpha Kael," the stranger said. His voice was melodic, ancient. "He rejected me?" I whispered, dropping the rock. "I am nobody." The stranger stepped closer. He looked at my violet eyes. He looked at the birthmark on my shoulder. A mark I had always covered up, shaped like a crescent moon. He knelt. "You are not nobody," he said softly. "We have been looking for you for 18 years, princess." "Princess?" I blinked, swaying on my feet. "I think you have the wrong person. I'm just a runt." "You are a hybrid," the stranger corrected. "Half Lycan, half something else, something older." He offered me his hand. "Come with me, Elara. Your pack rejected you because they feared your weakness. I will take you to a kingdom where they will fear your strength." "Where?" I asked, taking his cold hand. "To the Blood Moon Kingdom, to your true father." The exhaustion finally overtook me. My vision went black. The last thing I felt was the stranger catching me before I hit the ground. Elara of the Silver Moon Pack died that night in the forest. The queen was about to be born. Silver Moon Pack House. Alpha Kael sat on his throne, rubbing his temples. The pack was failing. Since the night he rejected Elara, a curse seemed to have fallen over the land. The prey had vanished from the woods. The winters were harsher, and the pack's strength was waning. Kael hadn't taken another mate. He had tried with Jessica, but the bond wasn't there. He felt empty, cold. "Alpha." His beta entered the room, holding a black envelope sealed with red wax. A messenger arrived. "From the north." "The north is a wasteland," Kael grunted. "Who sends messages from the wasteland?" "They call it the Blood Moon Empire now, sir. They say a new queen has united the rogue territories and the Lycan clans. She is holding a grand summit." Kael took the envelope. Felt heavy, powerful. A summit. She is demanding the presence of all alphas to discuss territory redistribution. Demanding? Kael bristled. Who does she think she is? She says she is the High Queen, and she says if we don't come, she will burn our packs to ash. Kael broke the seal. He pulled out the invitation. It was written in silver ink. "Alpha Kael, you are summoned to the Blood Moon Citadel. Bring your best warriors, and bring your humility. Do not be late. E." Kael stared at the initial. E. A shiver went down his spine. A memory of violet eyes and a gray dress. "Impossible," he whispered. "She died. The guards found her blood in the forest." "Sir, prepare the warriors." Kael stood up, his alpha aura flaring, though it felt weaker than before. "We go to the north. I want to see who dares to threaten me." He didn't know it yet, but he was walking into a trap. The girl he broke was gone. The woman waiting for him was a nightmare dressed in velvet. The journey to the north was grueling. The further Kael and his entourage traveled, the more the landscape changed. The dying forests of the Silver Moon territory gave way to towering ancient pines that scraped the sky. The air here didn't smell of decay. It smelled of frost, iron, an immense, raw power. Kael rode at the front, his beta, Jax, and Jessica flanking him. Jessica was shivering in her furs, complaining about the cold for the 100th time since they crossed the border. Kael ignored her. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, where the Blood Moon Citadel rose like a black mountain against the stars. It was a fortress of obsidian and steel, larger than any pack house he had ever seen. It wasn't just a home for wolves, it was a castle for gods. As they approached the massive iron gates, Kael felt a pressure in his chest. It was the sensation of entering another Alpha's territory, but magnified 1,000 times. This wasn't just another Alpha. This was an apex. The power radiating from the Citadel made his own wolf whimper in submission, a reaction that infuriated him. He was Kael of Silver Moon. He bowed to no one. "State your business." A guard boomed from the battlements. The guard was 7 feet tall, wearing armor that looked like dragon scales. "I am Alpha Kael," he shouted back, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am here for the summit. I was summoned by your queen." The gates groaned open without a word. Kael rode in, expecting to see a chaotic gathering of rogues. Instead, he saw an army. Thousands of warriors were training in the courtyard. They moved with perfect synchronization. Some were Lycan's massive, hulking beasts that made regular werewolves look like puppies. They stopped their sparring to watch Kael's small party ride in. Their eyes were glowing with predatory amusement. "They're looking at us like we're food," Jessica whispered, edging her horse closer to Kael. "Keep your head up," Kael snapped. "Show no weakness." They were escorted to the Great Hall. The doors were made of solid silver, etched with runes that hummed with magic. Kael's heart hammered against his ribs. He told himself it was anger, but deep down he knew it was fear. He had underestimated this new power in the north. If this queen decided to kill them, they wouldn't even make it to the door. The silver doors swung open. The throne room was vast, lit by floating orbs of blue fire. Alphas from other packs were already there, lined up along the sides, looking pale and nervous. At the far end of the room, atop a dais of black crystal, sat the queen. She was veiled. A sheer cloth of midnight blue covered her face, obscuring her features. She wore a gown of dark velvet that pooled around the throne like shadows, and on her head rested a crown of razor-sharp silver thorns. She didn't move. She sat with a stillness that was terrifying. Standing beside the throne was the silver-haired warrior who had saved her in the forest years ago, her commander. He watched Kael enter with black, void-like eyes. "Alpha Kael of Silver Moon," the commander announced, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "You are late." "The roads were treacherous," Kael lied, stepping forward. He refused to bow. He stood tall, projecting his alpha aura, trying to assert dominance. "And I do not answer to subordinates. I am here to speak to the queen." A ripple of shock went through the room. The other alphas flinched. "You did not speak to the Blood Moon Queen like that." The queen tilted her head slightly. It was a small, bird-like movement. She raised a gloved hand, and the commander stepped back. "Speak then," the queen said. Her voice was distorted, likely by magic or the veil. It was low, commanding, and vibrated in Kael's bones. "Tell me, Alpha Kael, why should I not burn your lands for your insolence?" "Because I am the strongest alpha in the Southern Territories," Kael boasted, though his confidence was crumbling. "My pack is ancient. We have bloodlines that go back centuries." "Bloodlines?" the queen scoffed. "I hear your pack is starving, Kael. I hear you cannot protect your borders. I hear you rejected your fated mate 5 years ago, and since then, your luck has rotted away." Kael froze. How did she know that? "That is a private matter," Kael growled. "My mate was a runt. She was weak. I did what was best for the pack." "Weak?" The queen repeated the word as if tasting it. "You threw her into the forest to die. Was that strength, Kael? Or was it cowardice?" "It was necessary," Kael shouted, his temper snapping. "She had no wolf. She was useless. An alpha needs a queen, not a burden." The air in the room dropped to freezing. The blue fires flared. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Kael is digging his own grave with every word, and he has no idea the shovel he's using was handed to him by the very woman he destroyed. It is a satisfying sight, seeing an arrogant man walk blindly into his own judgment. If you are enjoying seeing Kael sweat and want to witness the exact moment his world shatters, make sure to hit the like button. It helps the story reach more people who love a good revenge. The queen stood up. The movement was fluid, predatory. She descended the stairs of the dais one by one. With every step, her aura expanded. It hit Kael like a physical wave. It wasn't just an alpha aura. It was something ancient. It was the pressure of a goddess. Kael's knees buckled. He tried to stand, to fight it, but the power was overwhelming. It forced him down. Beside him, Jessica and Jax were already face down on the floor, whimpering. Kael hit the stone floor, his breath wheezing in his chest. He looked up, struggling to keep his head raised. The queen stopped inches from him. She looked down at him, just as he had looked down at her 5 years ago. "You said she had no wolf," the queen whispered, her voice no longer distorted. It was clear, familiar. "You said she was a stain on your lineage." She reached up and grabbed the veil. "But you forgot one thing about wolves, Kael. We remember everything." She ripped the veil away. Kael stared. His brain refused to process what he was seeing. The face looking down at him was sharper, colder, and breathtakingly beautiful. Her skin was flawless porcelain, her lips painted blood red. But the eyes, those violet eyes. "Elara?" he gasped. It was impossible. Elara was a skinny, dirty runt. This woman was a goddess of war. "Hello, Kael," Elara smiled, and it was a smile made of knives. "You look terrible. You're dead," Kael stammered, his mind reeling. "The guards, they found your blood. They found the blood of the weak girl you killed," Elara corrected. "She died that night. I am what rose from her grave." Suddenly, Kael felt it. The bond. It didn't snap back into place like a warm hug. It slammed into him like a freight train. His wolf, which had been lethargic for years, suddenly howled in his mind, clawing at his chest. Mate is here. Mate is queen." The realization hit Kael with the force of a physical blow. He had rejected this. He had thrown away a queen. He had thrown away the most powerful creature he had ever sensed. "Elara?" Kael whispered, reaching a trembling hand toward the hem of her dress. I didn't know. I can feel it. The bond. It's still there." He looked at her with desperate hope. If the bond was there, she had to forgive him. That was the law of the wolves. The bond conquered all. "Take me back," Kael pleaded, his arrogance gone, replaced by a pathetic hunger for her power. I accept you. I accept you as my Luna. We can rule together. Silver Moon and Blood Moon. We will be unstoppable." Jessica let out a gasp of betrayal beside him, but Kael didn't care. He only saw the power in front of him. Elara looked at his outstretched hand. She looked at his desperate, greedy eyes. She laughed. It was a dark, rich sound that echoed through the hall. The other alphas joined in, chuckling at Kael's stupidity. "You think you can accept me?" Elara asked, her voice dripping with amusement. "You think you can claim me now because I wear a crown? You didn't want me when I was in rags, Kael. You don't deserve me in velvet." She stepped back out of his reach. "I brought you here for one reason," Elara addressed the room, her voice booming, "to show you what happens to those who judge by appearance." She looked down at Kael, her violet eyes glowing with Lycan power. "You rejected me, Alpha Kael. You severed the bond. And now," she leaned in close so only he could hear the death sentence. "Now I am going to take everything you have. Your pack, your lands, your title. You wanted a strong wolf? I will show you strength. I challenge you for the position of Alpha of Silver Moon." Kael's blood ran cold. An Alpha challenge. To the death. "Elara, no," he whispered. "I can't fight you. You are my mate." "I am not your mate," Elara said, turning her back on him and walking toward the throne. "I am your queen. And tomorrow at dawn," I will be your executioner. The challenge had been issued, but Elara didn't kill him right there. That would be mercy, and Elara was fresh out of mercy. Take him to the guest wing, Elara ordered her guards, waving a dismissive hand at Kael. Give him the best room. Feed him the best wine. I want him strong for the duel in 3 days. It's no fun breaking a toy that is already cracked. Kael was dragged away, not to a dungeon, but to a luxurious suite. It was an insult disguised as hospitality. She wasn't afraid of him. She didn't even bother to chain him. She knew he couldn't escape the citadel. Inside the room, Jessica paced back and forth, hysterical. We have to run, Kael. She's a monster. Did you see her eyes? She's a Lycan. She'll tear us apart. Quiet, Kael snapped, pouring himself a glass of wine. His hands were shaking, but his arrogance was a hard habit to break. He looked out the window at the massive army training below. She won't kill me, Jessica. She's posturing. Posturing? She challenged you to a death match. She's hurt, Kael insisted, creating a delusion to protect his ego. She's angry because I rejected her. This is all a show. She wants me to beg. She wants me to prove I'm strong enough to be her king. He turned to Jessica with a cruel glint in his eye. The mate bond is absolute. Biology is on my side. No matter how powerful she is, her wolf craves me. I just need to remind her of who is Alpha. That evening, the summons came. Not for an execution, but for a banquet. The great hall was transformed. Long tables groaned under the weight of roasted beasts and exotic fruits. Alphas from a dozen territories sat in hushed reverence. When Kael entered, he expected a seat of honor. He was her mate, after all. Alpha Kael. A guard pointed to a small, rickety table near the kitchen doors, far away from the dais. You sit there. Kael's face flushed red. It was the table for the Omegas, the servants. He looked up at the high table. Elara sat on her throne, radiant in silver armor. Sitting close to her, too close, was her commander, the silver-haired warrior named Riven. Riven leaned in, whispering something in Elara's ear, and for the first time, Kael saw her smile. A genuine, soft smile. Jealousy, hot and acidic, exploded in Kael's chest. He ignored the guard and marched straight up the center of the hall toward the throne. The music stopped. The entire room held its breath. Elara, Kael boomed, using his alpha voice. Stop this childish game. We need to talk. Alone. Riven stood up, his hand on his sword hilt, but Elara stopped him with a touch. She looked at Kael with bored amusement. You speak out of turn, guest, Elara said, swirling her wine. You are interrupting my dinner. I am your mate, Kael shouted, desperate to reclaim his power in front of the other alphas. You can wear a crown, you can call yourself queen, but your soul belongs to me. Deny it. Deny that your wolf is calling for me right now. He unleashed his pheromones, pushing the alpha scent toward her, trying to force a biological reaction. It was a violation, a crude attempt to force submission. The other alphas gasped. Attempting to force a queen was a death sentence. Elara didn't flinch. She didn't blush. She simply stood up. The pressure in the room multiplied. You think you own me because of a scent, Kael? She walked down the steps. Kael smiled, thinking his dominance was working. She stopped inches from him. My wolf doesn't want you, she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. My wolf remembers starving in your cellar. My wolf remembers you spitting on her. The bond you feel? That isn't love, Kael. That is a ghost haunting a murderer. She grabbed him by the throat, so fast he couldn't react, and lifted him off the ground. And as for your alpha voice, her eyes glowed violet. She growled. It wasn't a loud sound. It was a subsonic vibration that shattered the wine glasses on the tables. Kael's wolf whimpered inside him and curled into a ball, terrified. Kael went limp in her grip, his dominance completely shattered by a true apex. Never try to command me again. She dropped him. He fell to his knees, gasping. Now go to your corner and eat your scraps. Or starve. I don't care. Kael crawled back to the Omega table, humiliated, while the entire hall laughed. That night, back in his room, Kael sat in the dark. The delusion was gone. She didn't love him. She hated him. And in 3 days, she was going to peel the skin from his bones. Kael? Jessica whispered from the shadows. We're going to die, aren't we? Kael looked at his hands. He had lost his honor. He had lost his dignity. But he wasn't ready to lose his life. She is strong, Kael muttered, his eyes manic. Too strong for a fair fight. But every creature has a weakness. He looked at Jessica. She calls herself a queen. She follows the old laws. That makes her predictable. What are you saying? I'm saying we don't fight fair. Kael reached into his boot and pulled out a small vial he had bought from a witch years ago. It was wolfsbane concentrate, mixed with silver nitrate. Poison. She humiliated me. She broke the bond. So I don't have to follow the rules either. He stood up, pacing. Tomorrow, before the duel, we request a reconciliation ritual. A final drink to seal the terms of combat. It's an old tradition. She won't refuse it in front of the other alphas. You're going to poison her? Jessica gasped. I'm going to weaken her, Kael corrected. Just enough to slow her down. Just enough so that when I shift, I can rip her throat out before she transforms into that white monster. He gripped the vial tight. She wants to play queen? Fine. I'll show her how kings keep their thrones. By any means necessary. Meanwhile, in the royal chambers, Elara stood on the balcony looking at the moon. Riven stood behind her. He is plotting, Riven said quietly. I can smell his fear. It reeks of treachery. Let me end him tonight, Elara. Why wait? Elara turned. Her face was hard, but her eyes were tired. Because Riven, she said. Killing him is easy. Breaking the legend of the alpha male. Exposing him as a coward in front of the entire world. That takes time. She looked back at the guest wing, where Kael was plotting his own demise. Let him plot. Let him cheat. It will only make his fall more satisfying. The game wasn't over. The trap was set. But Kael didn't realize that he wasn't the hunter setting the snare. He was just the rat scurrying toward the cheese. The sun rose over the arena of the blood moon, painting the sky in hues of violence. The stands were packed. Every eye was on the circle of dirt where the fate of 2 packs would be decided. Kael stood in the center, shaking. Not from fear this time, but from adrenaline. In his belt pouch, he hid the empty vial. He had done it. He had bribed the server to spike the ceremonial wine with enough concentrated wolfsbane to cripple an elephant. The gates opened. Elara walked out. She wore light leather armor, black as night, with silver engravings. She looked magnificent, and, Kael noted with a twisted surge of joy, she looked pale. Alpha Kael, Elara said, stopping 5 paces away. Her voice sounded slightly breathless. Are you ready to die with honor? I am ready to take back what is mine, Kael smirked. He pointed to the stone table at the edge of the ring where 2 goblets stood. But first, the reconciliation ritual. A toast to the ancestors. Unless... The queen is afraid to drink with a weak wolf. He was baiting her, trapping her in tradition. Elara looked at the goblets. She looked at Kael. A faint, mocking smile touched her lips. I fear nothing, Kael. She walked to the table. She picked up the goblet, the one Kael had marked. To the strongest wolf, Elara toasted. To the strongest, Kael echoed, raising his own safe cup. She drank. Kael watched her throat swallow the poison. He drank his own. He threw the cup down. Now, let's end this. Kael didn't wait. He roared, shifting midair. The gray timber wolf burst forth, massive and snarling. He expected Elara to shift into that terrifying white Lycan. But she didn't. She stumbled. She clutched her chest, coughing. It worked, Kael thought, triumph surging through him. The poison is working. She is weak. He didn't hesitate. He lunged, jaws snapping for her exposed neck. The crowd screamed as Kael's wolf tackled Elara to the ground. Dust flew up. Kael pinned her, his teeth grazing her throat. He had won. He He was the Alpha King. He prepared to bite down, to rip out her jugular and claim victory. But his jaws wouldn't close. A hand, Elara's hand, was gripping his lower jaw. Her grip was like iron. Kael growled, pushing with all his weight. But she didn't budge. She lay there in the dirt, beneath him, and she wasn't coughing anymore. She was laughing. "Did you really think," Elara whispered, her eyes flashing violet, "that I wouldn't smell the wolfsbane? I could smell it on your sweat yesterday, Kael." Kael froze. "You drank it," he thought, confused. "I am a Lycan Queen," Elara said, her voice distorting into a growl. "Your petty poisons don't kill me. They just make me angry." She threw him. With one arm, she launched the 1,000-pound wolf into the air. Kael flew across the arena, crashing into the stone wall with a bone-shattering crunch. He fell to the ground, shifting back into human form, broken and wheezing. Elara stood up. She dusted off her armor. She didn't shift. She didn't need to. She walked toward him, and with every step, the ground shook. "You cheated," she announced to the silent crowd. "You tried to poison your opponent in a sacred duel. You have no honor. You have no soul." She reached him. Kael tried to crawl away, dragging his broken legs. "Mercy," he sobbed. "Elara, please. We are mates." "We were never mates," she said coldly. She grabbed him by the hair and lifted his face to look at her. "5 years ago, you stripped me of my home because I had no wolf. You said I was nothing." She placed her hand over his heart. Violet energy surged from her palm, entering his chest. "So let's see how you like it." "No!" Kael screamed as the magic burned through him. "What are you doing?" "No!" It wasn't a physical pain. It was a spiritual amputation. Elara was tearing his connection to his wolf spirit. She was severing the ancient magic that made him an alpha. A golden light, the essence of his wolf, was ripped from his chest. It howled in agony and then dissolved into the air. Elara let him go. Kael collapsed into the mud. He gasped, clawing at his chest. "I can't feel him. I can't hear him. Give him back." His eyes, once steel gray, faded to a dull, flat brown. He sniffed the air, but he couldn't smell the fear of the crowd anymore. He couldn't hear the heartbeats. He was human. "You are no longer an alpha," Elara proclaimed, her voice booming like thunder. "You are not even a beta. You are nothing. A runt." She turned to the guards. "Take him to the border. Take his mistress, Jessica, too. Dump them in the human lands with nothing but the clothes on their backs." She looked down at Kael one last time. "If you return to my territory, my wolves will hunt you, not for sport, but for food. Run, Kael. Run while you still have legs." The guards dragged the screaming, sobbing former alpha out of the arena. Elara turned to the Silver Moon Pack, who stood terrified in the stands. "Your alpha was a coward and a cheat," she yelled. "Who claims this pack now?" The beta of Silver Moon, Jax, stepped forward. He fell to his knees, baring his neck. "We claim you, Queen Elara," Jax shouted. "We submit to the Blood Moon." One by one, thousands of wolves knelt. The sound of knees hitting the dirt echoed like a drumbeat. That evening, Elara stood on the balcony of the citadel, watching the moon rise. It was full and bright. She felt a presence behind her. Riven, her commander. "It is done," Riven said softly. "The south is yours." "It doesn't feel like victory," Elara admitted, leaning on the railing. "It just feels like taking out the trash." Riven stepped closer. He stood beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. For 5 years, he had trained her, protected her, watched her grow from a broken girl into a warrior. "He didn't deserve you," Riven said. "He never saw you." "And you?" Elara asked, turning to look at him. "What do you see, Riven?" Riven looked at her with his void-black eyes. There was no greed in them, only absolute devotion. "I see the girl who survived the forest," he whispered. "And I see the queen who commands my soul." Elara smiled. It wasn't the cruel smile she gave Kael. It was genuine. She reached out and took Riven's hand. "The Alpha is dead," she whispered. "But the Queen needs a king." Riven bowed his head, kissing her knuckles. "I am yours, Elara, until the moon falls from the sky." Below them, the wolves howled in unison, celebrating the start of a new reign. The runt was gone. The era of the blood moon had begun.